Thank you. Before we begin, a couple comments I want to make. First, I wanted to welcome my new assistant, Angelica Romo, so you can raise your hand. She applauding is exactly what I feel like because we've been waiting for her for a while. She has served with distinction at the Energy Commission for 28 years in the efficiency division and is going to come be our assistant in our office. So welcome, Angelica. And also, we have a few other folks I wanted to recognize in particular. We're joined today on her first day of work by Darcy Hawk, our terrific new Chief Counsel. And I want to welcome you and invite you to say a few words about your background and areas of interest. Why don't you come up to the podium, Darcy?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Again, my name's Darcy Houck. I'm really pleased to be back at the Commission. I was here as one of my first jobs right out of law school as a staff counsel during the energy crisis, and I still look at that as one of the best jobs I ever had. After leaving the Commission, I went into private practice representing tribes across the country in a variety of forums, and then my most recent position was at the Public Utilities Commission here in California as an administrative law judge. My areas of focus are energy, environment, natural resources, in particular looking at nuclear decommissioning, tribal issues, and renewable, affordable energy for low-income communities. So thank you. I look forward to working with each of you, the Executive Office, and all of the great attorneys in the Chief Counsel's Office and our staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. It was an exhaustive search. I particularly want to thank my colleague, Commissioner Douglas, our attorney commissioner, for her leadership and assistance in this, and just really excited to welcome you to the team. And also wanted to welcome our terrific new public advisor, Noemi Gallardo. Why don't you come up and share a little bit about your background?
Hello, thank you so much, Chair. I appreciate this opportunity. My parents are both immigrants from Mexico who came to the United States with nothing and seeking the American dream. So it is an honor for me and my family to have been appointed by the governor for this role, working with such incredible leaders and experts such as the commissioners and the staff. I look forward to meeting everyone. And I wanted to give a little bit about my background. So I grew up low income, and as a little girl helped my parents navigate the English-speaking world. And those experiences witnessing my parents struggle because they lacked resources and even a voice motivated me to build my career serving low-income and disadvantaged communities so that they would not be voiceless like we were sometimes. And for many years, I worked as a state-certified interpreter serving low-income immigrant workers with limited English proficiency. And after earning a master's in public policy and a law degree, I spent many years doing policy advocacy work from a social justice and economic equity lens at various entities, including a foundation, academic research center, and my own consulting firm. But I'd like to highlight that a fellowship I did at a racial and social justice organization called the Green Lining Institute is where I started my work in energy and got really passionate about making sure that this fundamental resource was accessible and meaningful for low-income communities. And my most recent stint was at Sunrun, a national solar and storage company where I gained significant experience in solar and focused on increasing low-income access, advancing workforce diversity, and ensuring consumer protection. So given my background, it is a special opportunity for me to serve as a bridge between the Commission and the public, and also to help ensure that the voices of all Californians are heard. So as the public advisor, my areas of focus are going to be increasing outreach to disadvantaged communities, people with disabilities who are struggling with power shutoffs right now, advancing efforts in language access, consumer protection, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also building stronger relationships with external stakeholders who we are currently working with and new ones as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate this opportunity.
Well, great, and I really want to welcome. I really want to recognize the work of Vice Chair Scott in reaching out to disadvantaged communities around the state, and Naomi, you're going to be a big part of that as we ramp up our efforts to build a clean energy future. One important part of your benefits package, Darcy and Naomi, that you get to collect today is both Commissioner McAllister and I are beekeepers. And so each of you gets a jar of honey because when we work together, we can make something sweet. So why don't you come up and collect your... toast in the morning. Thank you, guys. Welcome to you both. Really happy to have you. Yeah, oh, please, go ahead. Yes.
You know, I just wanted to obviously welcome both Darcy and Naomi and just say I'm thrilled to have both of them join. I also wanted to thank Alan Ward. He's been our acting chief counsel for the last 3 months as we've gone through the search. And he has been very patient and diligent, and he has worked very hard to help us keep the chief counsel's office moving and functioning and working very well and continuing to deal with issues in this transition period. And I know he'll be an essential part of the transition and helping Darcy get oriented and get going. And so thank you very much, Alan.
Yes, thank you, Alan. My thanks as well to Jennifer Martin Gallardo, who served very ably as our interim public advisor. We have one last item to take care of. If we could invite Siva up to the podium.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and the Commissioners. I'm Siva Gunda, Deputy Director for the Energy Assessments Division, and I'm here to recognize the incredible contributions of Chris Kowalik and convey our sincere gratitude for over 3 decades of service at the Energy Commission. Chris has been the Chief Forecaster for over 10 years, leading the Commission's demand forecast work. He has also been one of our most prominent thought leaders in this field, guiding nearly all aspects of DIOs during this time. Kind of feeling a little bit more emotional than I thought. So Chris does not know this is happening because he resists and resisted any type of celebration over the last month. So because I don't often listen to him, I thought this is the best way to send him off. Thank you for the chair for supporting this. It was easy for him to be here, though. All we had to say is the demand forecast is in trouble. And the chair and Commissioner McAllister might have some questions, and he showed up perfectly on time. So with that, welcome, Chris. So developing the demand forecast is one of the core functions of the Energy Commission. Having been intimately involved with it for almost 3 years now, I completely recognize how time-taking the whole process is and how nuanced it is. Oftentimes people say forecasting is a little bit more than science. It's kind of on the art side. So thanks to Chris for bringing his professional technical expertise as well as his artistic side. He worked nights and weekends. We were very short-staffed for the last few years, routinely working through weekends, nights, and meeting critical deadlines. Anytime some component of this complex, time-sensitive process wasn't going accordingly to plan, Chris would step up and show how to get out of it. Among a few professional contributions along the way, Chris was the founding member of the Demand Analysis Working Group. Through this group, he worked to maintain and build confidence in our forecasting process among sister agencies, utilities, entities such as the CAISO. Chris developed a robust methodology to calculate the savings from our California standards, which was about $100 billion. Thank you, Chris. Chris has also been instrumental in adapting the demand forecast to address the peak shift issues, resulting from large-scale penetration of rooftop solar, as well as creating the hourly forecast model that evaluates and studies the state policies in terms of incorporating them, energy efficiency, electric vehicles, rooftop PV, and customer storage. In addition to his professional achievements and contributions to our work, Chris is universally respected by his colleagues, his intelligence, thoughtfulness, and reasonableness, sense of humor, and easygoing nature. He has been a mentor to a number of people in the audience today, and I know a lot of them are really, really happy and sad. When things get a little hot, Chris has a way to get out of them. And one of the things I learned from him is to say, when things are a little tight, just say, I will attempt to summarize what you're trying to say. So it gives you enough time and also kind of a wiggle
I
room
could
to
use that in
de-escalate.
my marriage, actually.
Yeah.
It's like
So you stole my line. I've been using that personally a lot in my family. So thank you, Chris, for helping me personally too. Chris has contributed 36 years of professionalism and forecasting expertise at the Energy Commission, and today we celebrate him as he embarks on his new chapter. Chris, thank you for your service and best of luck with everything. We will miss you dearly.
Yeah, please stand up, Chris. Congratulations. Thank you, Siva, and congratulations, Chris, and thanks for the marriage advice as well. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Is there any member of the public wishing to make a comment on the consent calendar? Any items on the consent calendar? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 2, discussion of Energy Commission progress on the joint agency report, charting a path to 100% clean energy future, SB 100. Siva.
Good morning again, Commissioners. I'm going to cover for Tara today, just providing a brief update on the SB 100 work that's been going on. So this last month, we had our scoping workshop in the Central Valley in Fresno. We had about 40 in person and about 200 online total. So we had Chair Hochschild, Commissioner Randolph, and Richard Corey from CARB in attendance, and staff from 3 agencies presented, including Carrie Byland from CARB, Simon Baker from CPUC, and myself from CEC. We also had a stakeholder panel that included Mayor of Huron, Ray Leon. We also had Brad Cohen from TID, the Tarlac Irrigation District, and Leslie Martinez from Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. Public comment that we've received was from about 19 stakeholders, including Assembly Member Arambula. Some of the key things that we've heard is to include existing large hydro in zero carbon resources as we plan for defining what zero carbon resources is in SB 100. There's also a lot of discussion on including air pollution impacts within the report. There was emphasis on affordability, both from industry as well as environmental justice perspectives. And there was a lot of community engagement discussion requesting the 3 agencies to potentially have more interactions with communities in the Central Valley, maybe even finding time in the evenings when we can just meet more informally. I also want to note a couple of workshops that are upcoming. We have the second scoping workshop in NorCal in Redding on the 25th. And on the 29th, we have our third and the final workshop in Diamond Bar, Southern California. Both of those workshops will include perspectives on reliability as well as equity, continued discussions on them. And we are really the 3 agencies are trying to gather as much information as possible before we go into our November 18th workshop, the first of the technical workshops, to begin talking about the modeling activities. Staff have been able to develop a draft of the preliminary report, and the 3 agencies are working together to finalize the draft, and we hope to at least daylight that at the November 18th meeting, the few components of that. With that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay. Any public
Thank you.
comments? All right. Hearing none, let's move on. Thank you, Siva. Let's move on to item 3, Empower Innovation Launch.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. The California Energy Commission has recently launched an online platform that connects people across the clean tech ecosystem to each other. I'd like to take this time to introduce the public to the website. I'm going to show a quick video that tells you more about it. Then I'll give a demonstration of the platform. And lastly, I'll play a short video by our own Vice Chair, Scott.
Innovation in clean technology, or clean tech, is on the rise. Many dedicated innovators are working on solutions to our serious environmental problems with new products, processes, and services that save energy and water and reduce waste and pollution. But there are still many barriers to launching a successful clean tech company and bringing innovative solutions to where they are needed the most. Entrepreneurs need help setting up their businesses and finding funding to reach commercial success. And people who will benefit from clean tech solutions, like communities suffering from air quality issues, need help identifying the right solutions and partnerships that work for them. Empower Innovation is an online platform that breaks down these barriers by connecting innovators from across the clean tech ecosystem to each other and to resources that will accelerate their journey. Whether you are busy creating the next breakthrough in clean tech or looking for solutions to your organization's pressing needs, Empower Innovation helps you save time by sharing curated funding opportunities, profiles of interesting organizations and companies, and upcoming events. Empower Innovation helps you show your interest and connect with future partners on specific private and public grants, pitch prizes, and other funding opportunities collected from dozens of sources in one convenient place. Finally, Empower Innovation makes it easy to share information with colleagues and friends using direct messaging and shared lists of resources and referrals. Whatever your clean tech journey, find your way on Empower Innovation. Innovation in clean technology.
And now I'll give a quick tour of the website. Empower Innovation is a place where people connect to form project teams and get grant funding. For example, a potential applicant is looking to pull together a project team and needs to find a community that would benefit from the project, technologists and entrepreneurs with advanced energy technology, and match funding partners and investors. Empower Innovation has both Energy Commission and non-Energy Commission funding opportunities for people to network on. As an example, here's a placeholder funding opportunity called Epic Test. You can see that the funding opportunity page includes information about the funding opportunity, deadlines, and other information. While here, a user can indicate interest and can further indicate what they can offer and what they're looking for. So for this example, I'll type in my name, that I'm seeking a partner, and I can offer a demonstration host site and financial support. While here, I could also see other users that are interested in networking, see what they have to offer, and send them a message. Here I see that Laura Vogel can offer advisory services. So I might send a message that says, I see, oh, if I can click into the text box. I see you're offering services. It's so small, I can't even tell. Anyway, you can definitely do that, and then you can press send. And finally, we have a video of Vice Chair Scott.
Hello, I'm Janaea Scott, the Vice Chair of the California Energy Commission, and I'm here to welcome you to our new online platform, Empower Innovation. At the Energy Commission, part of our mission is to help connect the innovators who are working to build a 100% clean energy future. These innovators are as diverse as the people of California and include entrepreneurs who are conceiving the next breakthrough idea, businesses and local governments that are demonstrating and then adopting new low-carbon technology solutions in response to climate change, universities educating future clean tech leaders and carrying out impactful cutting-edge research, and the communities and local organizations working to improve the lives of their neighbors. Empower Innovation provides an online platform to connect innovators to each other and to the resources they need to deliver a low-carbon economy for all. I hope you'll join us and become part of the Empower Innovation Network.
Thank you. The Navigant team helped us put together this exciting platform, and they are with me here today. We are happy to answer any questions.
Vice Chair Scott?
Sure, I just want to say great. It's so exciting to have a platform where we're able to connect all of the folks that you have highlighted. I'm glad that we're getting to launch that today. We're also going to have the opportunity to share it with our Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group and others. So I hope that folks around the room and anyone who might be listening in on our WebEx will help us get the word out about this exciting new tool. And I want to just say thank you to you, Josh, and the team for putting all of this together.
Awesome.
So this is sort of like a Match.com for entrepreneurs. Will you be able to just report back periodically on the progress in terms of the users?
Absolutely.
That'd be great to get some metrics over time.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other comments on this? Well, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 4, Geysers Facilities Fire System Recommissioning.
Good morning, Chair Hochschild, Vice Chair Scott, Commissioners. My name is Eric Veerkamp. I work in the Compliance Office of the Siting, Transmission, and Environmental Protection Division as the project manager for the Geysers facilities. And with me this morning is Deborah Dyer, Senior Staff Counsel on this item. Today, staff is seeking approval of the proposed resolution approving agreement 719-003 with NV5 Incorporated for a zero-sum contract with the Energy Commission to provide delegate chief building official services for the fire system recommissioning activities at 6 Geysers facilities. Recommissioning involves assessing the adequacy and readiness of the existing fire protection systems and comparing them against an updated fire needs assessment so that appropriate upgrades and modifications to the system can be made. The fire needs assessment considers the plant's aging infrastructure and California's changing fire risks. Since the final fire systems will be a blend of existing, modified, and new systems, having a DCBO's review and inspection ensures that the final intermingled systems are designed and built according to the applicable codes. NV5 Incorporated will carry out design review and construction inspections on behalf of the Energy Commission. NV5 Incorporated will be compensated by the project owner of the Geysers facilities, Geysers Power Company, LLC, for the services. The CEC is the chief building official for all power plants under the CEC's jurisdiction and is authorized to designate a delegate CBO for this purpose, assisting with our responsibilities. To delegate this authority, the CEC released a request for qualifications to select the most qualified firm to provide DCBO services for the Geysers. Through this process, 5 firms provided bids, and NV5 Incorporated received the highest score through the competitive bid process. 3 of the 5 bids were not scored because they were disqualified during the administrative portion of the review on a procedural requirement. The CEC has also established hourly rates through a rate negotiation process. If this agreement is approved, NV5 and Geysers Power Company will negotiate a separate contract for payment with the rates that staff had established in our agreement with NV5. The CEC will be named as a third-party beneficiary to that agreement to ensure enforcement rights by the CEC. Staff is requesting approval of the contract, Standard Agreement S213, and the assignment of NV5 to be the DCBO for the Geysers. That completes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Douglas?
Just a brief comment, really. This item, Commissioners, reflects proactive steps taken by Commission staff to ensure that power plants maintain and upgrade as necessary systems that are critical for health and safety. And properly designed and constructed and operated fire protection systems like the ones addressed in this item are very important to help protect property and lives and improve power plant reliability and resiliency. So, you know, I want to thank staff for their good work, and I support and I'll move this item.
Okay, any public comments on this? Hearing none, is there a second?
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 5, adopting Energy Commission determination finding the San Francisco Public Utility Commission's Hetch Hetchy Power IRP consistent with the requirements of SB 350.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. My name's Paul Deaver. I'm the Program Manager for Publicly Owned Utility Integrated Resource Plans. Today I'm going to present 2 POU IRPs and propose adopting the Executive Director determination finding each of these IRPs consistent with the requirements of Senate Bill 350. The 2 POUs are the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, who operates the Hetch Hetchy Power electric utility. Hetch Hetchy Power, or Hetch Hetchy, is the electric utility. The San Francisco Public Utilities Commission submitted an IRP on their behalf as they operate the utility. The second utility is the Modesto Irrigation District. These are 2 separate business meeting items. First, a status update on POU IRPs. To date, all 16 POUs have submitted IRPs to the Energy Commission. 4 Executive Director determinations have been adopted so far. And between November and December, staff expects to present 9 POU IRPs and 1 in early 2020. First, I'm going to provide an overview of the POU IRP requirements under Senate Bill 350. You've all seen this before. This is a review. I'm going to go through these quickly. The 16 largest POUs, those with an annual load greater than 700 gigawatt hours, must adopt an IRP and a process for updating that IRP by January 1st, 2019. The POUs must also submit the IRP reporting tables and any supporting information that staff needs to review those IRPs. The POUs must also update their IRPs at least once every 5 years. During the review of the IRPs, Energy Commission staff relied on internal experts to help in the review. Staff also relied on POU IRP staff for clarifications and to answer questions. During the Energy Commission's review process, there are 2 comment periods. The first is a 30-day comment period when the IRP is first submitted. That gives the public a chance to comment on the IRP based on SB 350 requirements. There is also a 45-day comment period after staff's review and the Executive Director determination has been put out that allows staff or allows the public another opportunity to comment. Some of the requirements for POU IRPs under Senate Bill 350. POUs must meet the California Air Resources Board established GHG emissions targets by 2030. They must also meet the renewable energy procurement targets, which are procuring at least 50% RPS eligible resources by 2030. Senate Bill 100 became law January 1st, 2019, after the POUs have adopted their IRPs, so the review is going to focus on Senate Bill 350 and the 50% requirement rather than the 60% RPS requirement. Also, POU IRPs must ensure that the POU is able to serve its customers at just and reasonable rates, that they minimize impact on ratepayer bills, that they strengthen the diversity, sustainability, and resiliency of their power system, that they enhance distribution systems and demand-side energy resources, and also that they minimize air pollutants and other greenhouse gases with an early priority on disadvantaged communities. POU IRPs must also address the procurement of another number of items. These include energy efficiency and demand response, transportation electrification, energy storage, a diversified set of resources. They also must consider existing clean resources, including energy storage and grid operational efficiencies, in meeting their energy requirements in the hours of net peak demand. I'm going to provide an overview of Hetch Hetchy Power, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, the utility they operate. I'll refer to them as Hetch Hetchy or Hetch Hetchy Power for this presentation. The San Francisco Public Utilities Commission submitted an IRP on Hetch Hetchy Power's behalf. They operate the Hetch Hetchy Power utility. Hetch Hetchy is the 14th largest POU in California. They are a not-for-profit electric, water, and wastewater utility in San Francisco County. Most of their customers are large municipal agencies and large businesses. They have a very small amount of residential customers. Roughly 8% of their total customer base is residential. The rest are large municipal and businesses. They deliver
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.webex.com.
All right, Hetch Hetchy delivers over 900 gigawatt hours to about 200 residential customers and over 3,000 municipal agencies and businesses. Some of their larger customers include the Port of San Francisco, the San Francisco International Airport.
Sorry, just a minute. Are we off of WebEx? Is that going to take a minute, Jerome? Why don't we just hold for 1 second until we get that fixed? Unless that's going to be, how, is that like a 2-minute thing or? Yeah, you're right. Let's just hold for a minute, thanks.
Chairman, it's going to take about 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Well, while we're waiting, I can just share a little bit. I was going to save this to the end, but I'll just share a little bit about my experience in the Navajo Nation the last few days. And I just wanted, and Darcy, this may be of particular interest to you with your tribal experience working with tribes, but basically one of the most, the dirtiest and biggest coal power plants in the United States, NGS, is a 2.2 gigawatt 1970s vintage power plant in Navajo Nation, is closing. They've actually stopped coal deliveries to the facility as of now, and they're just burning down the remaining coal, but it will close the last 2 units next month. And so the Navajo people have created a new, I think it's called Navajo Sunrise, is what they're talking about, basically a new commitment to build out renewables to replace that. And it's just one of the most significant energy transitions. And talking to the leaders there about what they're doing is just really, really exciting. And you know, obviously, there's a lot of jobs with that facility too, both for the coal power plant itself and for the mine, which is also being shut. There's a big focus on training and trying to build the ecosystem of clean energy technologies. And Commissioner Douglas is, as many of you know, has been. We had our Tribal Energy Summit was that June or July maybe? I think maybe it was in July. I think it was, and you know, as part of our efforts here, she's got this $2.5 million planning grants that we're giving out to tribes. But I actually would like to have the Navajo come and give a presentation here on what they're doing, because it's so significant. And they you know, that coal plant has served the California market for many decades. So announcements people wanted to share while we're waiting? Yeah. we could do other commissioner updates while we're waiting. Why don't we just do commissioner updates at this point, if this is going to be a few more minutes while we're waiting, since we have to get through that. Commissioner Monahan, do you want to?
You know, while she's looking, I quickly pulled up my calendar so I can jump in here.
Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to give an update about the offshore wind conference that I attended, and a number of staff were there, and you and I both spoke at. So there was a Pacific Rim offshore wind conference. It was very informative. We had a chance to hear about the state of the industry and the state of the technology with a perspective that included Europe, the East Coast, and also the Pacific Rim, obviously. And we followed that up with an IPER workshop on the topic, and it was exceptionally well attended. We got some very good speakers, in part by leveraging the fact that some of these folks were in town anyway. And we heard an earful and a half of recommendations for what the state should be doing in this area, and I think we'll sort through it as comments come in. So that's my update.
Yeah, that was a terrific event, and IPER workshop, Commissioner, thank you for putting that together. Great participation in the room. We did it at the PUC, and the room was full. Just shows the level of interest in offshore wind. How are we looking, guys? So it's another few minutes? Oh, okay. All right. Well, why don't we hold another one? They said 30 seconds, so maybe let's just wait. Yeah.
Anyone on the line?
Is this the Verizon operator?
It is. Would you like me to join the conference?
Yeah, this is the main feed line, the Passwords Business Meeting. This is Jerome Lee.
Great, Jerome. I'll join you right back in. Your line will be open.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, should be good.
Okay, let's continue. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So for Hetch Hetchy Power, their annual load, they deliver about 900 gigawatt hours to roughly 200 residential customers and about 300 large business and municipal agencies. Some of their large customers include the Port of San Francisco, the San Francisco International Airport, and the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency. Good point.
Maybe you can make note for the folks who are listening in on the WebEx that we paused while we got the WebEx back up and running, so they haven't missed a moment of your presentation.
We'll get back to the presentation shortly, folks. Just getting the PowerPoint back up. All right. So for Hetch Hetchy Power, they adopted their IRP in November of 2018. They submitted it to the Energy Commission in February of 2019, along with their supporting information. The Energy Commission reviewed the IRP finding and found that it met all the requirements of Senate Bill 350. The Energy Commission then posted an executive director determination and staff review paper in June of 2019 for public comments. These were due in August of 2019. Only Hetch Hetchy Power provided comments, and these were very minor clarifications in the staff paper. They did not change staff findings or the executive director determination. For their planning strategy, Hetch Hetchy examined 3 separate scenarios. The first was to maintain current hydroelectric generation from their hydro system. The second was to defer some investments in their hydro system. And the third scenario was to defer all investments in their Moccasin hydroelectric plant. And along with this third scenario, because they're deferring investments, they looked at adding 50 megawatts of renewable energy to account for that. Hetch Hetchy found it most cost-effective to optimize investments in their hydro system to have it better match with their retail sales. Hetch Hetchy did not pick a singular preferred portfolio. Instead, they're looking at the IRP and they will consider it in their broader organizational needs, and this will include looking at the interaction between water and power operations. For their renewable energy procurement requirements, because Hetch Hetchy meets more of its retail load, or more than 67% of its retail load of qualifying hydroelectric power, it must meet 100% of its retail sales from either qualifying hydro or from RPS eligible resources. In most years, hydroelectric serves over 98% of retail sales for Hetch Hetchy. Their resource generation remains relatively constant over the planning period. It's mostly hydro, as I mentioned. A small portion of their load is met by some solar resources and 1 biomass plant. For their greenhouse gas targets, the Air Resources Board range for Hetch Hetchy is between 12,000 and 22,000 metric tons of CO2 by 2030. They are under this goal. They produce 0 GHGs through their hydro system and their resources, and they project that they will produce energy from zero emission resources now and through 2030 and beyond. For transportation electrification, most of Hetch Hetchy's commercial customers are commercial and municipal agencies. Therefore, their electrification strategy is going to focus on those customers. By 2035, the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency plans to electrify the rest of their bus fleet. Hetch Hetchy also looked at a scenario, a high distributed energy resource scenario that added 1,200 city fleet electric vehicles, which amounts to about 8,000 megawatt hours per year of load. This is just under 1% of the retail sales, and they suspect that their existing hydro system and their existing resources can meet this load without procuring new generation. Today I'm requesting the Energy Commission adopt the Executive Director's determination finding that Hetch Hetchy Power IRP is consistent with the requirements of Senate Bill 350. I am open to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Commissioner McAllister? Yeah, sorry, any public comment on that item? Okay, Commissioner McAllister?
Thank you, Paul. I want to just thank you for this item and the next item. Just recognize the work it is to go through all these IRP submittals with Mark and his team, and I've sort of parceled out the work among staff, and I've been keeping up to date on all of these, all 16. And just a couple comments actually just about the kind of the process here. So. It's impossible to know exactly what's happening in the future, right? So these are, they're prospective, they're sort of submittals about what the plan is, what they think is going to happen. And I think it's really important that we keep on top of what actually happens, and in particular on the efficiency, demand response, transmission, RA, all of that stuff. Those are fluid. And we need to make sure that actually compliance happens as we move forward. But I want to just thank Hetch Hetchy for the complete submittal and all the back and forth. It's a lot of work, and it's a different thing to do a whole bunch of medium-sized and small PUDs or public POUs than the large IOUs, and so it's kind of a different beast, and we're making sure that this process is truly statewide. And the sum total of all of the IRP work that the PUC is doing, and then plus all these POUs. So it's I think, really valuable work. It's providing a lot of insight on what's happening in reality and what we think is going to happen, and really giving us a lot of detailed information on how we're going to meet our climate goals. And I think the front lines are the actual utilities and the actual procurement that's happening out there. And I want to just sort of set a little bit of context for this work and highlight how important it is, and appreciate all the work that staff has put into this. Any other comments?
Thank you. Any other comments?
All right. Great. With that, I'll move item 5.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Douglas. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 6, adopting Energy Commission determination finding Modesto Irrigation District's IRP consistent with the requirements of SB 350.
All right, I'm going to provide a little bit of an overview of the Modesto Irrigation District. I'll refer to them as Modesto throughout. Modesto is the 5th largest POU in California. They're publicly owned. The electric utility, they provide electricity as well as irrigation and drinking water in the Modesto area. They deliver over 2,600 gigawatt hours to nearly 1,000 residential customers and around 12,000 businesses. Their annual peak load is almost 700 megawatts. So for the current resource mix, it is primarily natural gas, both large and small hydroelectrics, solar, wind, and biomass, and some market purchases. Modesto recently exited from their San Juan coal plant contract. This was at the end of 2017. For the submittal to the Energy Commission, Modesto adopted their IRP in December of 2018 and submitted it to the Energy Commission in March of 2019. Energy Commission staff reviewed the IRP filing and found that it did meet all the requirements of Senate Bill 350. In June, Energy Commission staff posted a staff review paper and an executive director determination for comment. These comments were due in August. We received no comments on the staff review paper or the determination. For Modesto's procurement and planning strategy, they examined 3 types of resources that they would look at for the future. These include utility-owned generation, RPS resources both in and out of state, along with market purchases. Modesto performed modeling to determine an optimal portfolio that met policy goals. For Modesto's preferred portfolio, it includes primarily additional solar resources and some generic RPS resources. The generic RPS would include wind, solar, and biomass, and generic here means there is no specific contract or specific location for the resource. They do also plan for a small decrease in their natural gas usage between 2019 and 2030. For their renewable energy procurement requirements, they do plan to reach a 50% RPS by 2030, and they do planning for 60% RPS in future IRPs. And in 2030, their RPS portfolio consists primarily of solar, generic RPS, and wind resources, with some small amounts of biomass and small hydro. For the Air Resources Board greenhouse gas targets, they are between 317,000 and 559,000 metric tons of CO2 by 2030. Modesto projects to get down to 476,000 metric tons by 2030. Their GHG reductions primarily come from divesting in the San Juan coal plant contract. For transportation electrification, by 2030, Modesto expects to have about 5,000 electric vehicles on the road in the service territory and roughly about 19 gigawatt hours per year of charging load. Modesto is exploring electric vehicle charging station installation standards for both home and the workplace. They currently have no infrastructure development plan because of the low ownership rate of electric vehicles on their service territory. Today I'm requesting the Energy Commission adopt the Executive Director's determination finding Modesto Irrigation District's IRP consistent with the requirements of Senate Bill 350. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. Any comments from the public? Okay.
Yeah, thanks again, Paul, for that, and Modesto for all the submittals, and sounds like there wasn't a ton of back and forth here, but I think the transportation piece of this, as well as on both efficiency, demand response, certainly the transportation load is critical to monitor going forward, because we really don't. I mean, we hope it's going to go steeper than they project, and it might. So we need to keep on top of that to make sure it's we're characterizing that sort of properly going forward, and a lot of potential there for making greenhouse gas emissions happen. So,
Wanna make a motion?
yeah. So move item 6.
For a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scott. All in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 7, CalCerts.
So, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Susie Chan. I'm with the Standard Compliance Office in the Efficiency Division. So this morning, I'm seeking Energy Commission approval on items 7 and 8. So for item 7, I'm seeking your approval to certify CalCerts as a home energy rating system provider or host provider for the 2019 Building Energy Efficiency Standards, or the energy standards, and CalCerts host data registry as required by the energy standards. So we review CalCerts application, including their training and data registry, and all components of their application meets the requirement of the HERS regulation, the 2019 energy standards, and the reference appendices. So we posted the Executive Director recommendation on September 19 for public comments. We have not received any comments, and we don't expect to receive any comments. So the approval of CalCert as a home energy provider will satisfy the requirement of Title 24, Part 6, where HERS field verification and diagnostic testing is required to be in compliance with the 2019 standards, which will go into effect January 1st, 2020. So thank you for your consideration, and CEC staff and CalCerts are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Is CalCerts present? All right. Thanks. Are there any public comments, or would you like to say anything? Yes? Okay. Yeah. Right. Coming up.
Good morning. I'm Charlie Bashan, CEO of CalCerts. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. The 2019 standards represent a pretty substantial milestone, both for the Energy Commission and for the state, and probably for the nation. It's been a lot of work behind the scenes to make everything happen correctly so that we could support those standards. A lot of good hard work by staff in developing the software that's necessary and reviewing our application, which we're grateful for. So in short, I'd just like to say that we are looking forward to the opportunity to support our raters and the other industry stakeholders in achieving the Energy Commission's goals for the 2019 standards. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Commissioner McAllister?
Yeah, so just thanks, Charlie, and staff for all the hard work. It's great to have this in place before January 1, because that's when it needs to be ready for prime time and hitting the road. So another piece in place to really have the new standards have the impact that they need to have. So I'll move item 7.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Commissioner Monahan. All in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 8,
Thank you.
Console Home Energy Efficiency Rating Services. Cheers. Good acronym.
So good morning. So this is for item 8. I'm requesting Energy Commission approval to certify Console Home Energy Efficiency Rating Services, or CHEERS, as a home HERS provider for the 2019 Building Energy Standards, and CHEERS Residential Data Registry as required by the energy standards. So staff review CalCert CHEERS application, including the training and residential data registry. All parts of the applications satisfy the requirements specified in the HERS regulation, the 2019 standards, and the reference appendices. The executive director recommendation was posted for public comments on September 19th. We have not received any comments, and we do not anticipate to receive any. The approval of Cheers as a home energy rating system provider will satisfy the requirement of Title 24, Part 6, where HERS field verification and diagnostic testing is required for compliance with the 2019 energy standards, which will go into effect January 1st, 2020. So thank you for your consideration, and Cheers and staff is available to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any public comments on this? Oh, yeah, go ahead, sir. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Hodgson. I'm the executive director of Cheers, and wanted to take the time to thank commission staff appropriately, particularly Christine Kalapi, as well as Lorraine White, and their teams for spending a lot of time with us going through this revision process. They maintained an incredibly productive back and forth during the entire review, and we're very thankful for their efficiency with everyone's time. Cheers looks forward to working together on 2019 implementation, furthering, increasing standards compliance, and further promoting the critical role that the HERS industry plays in the California building industry. So again, thank you, and that's it from Cheers.
Great, thank you. Commissioner McAllister?
Great, yeah, so we not only have one provider, we have two, so competition is good. So I think the Raider community will be well served, and really will be in great shape for January 1. I want to just thank Lorraine and team and both providers, in this case, Cheers. So I'll move item 8.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Douglas. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 9, Trinity Public Utility District.
Thank you and good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Chang Mua. I work in the Building Standards Office in the Efficiency Division. With me is my colleague Mazi Sharak, as well as Jacqueline Moore from the Chief Counsel's Office. Today, I'm bringing forward our first application from a public agency, which is Trinity Public Utility District, who is requesting for an exemption from the new solar photovoltaic requirements of the 2019 Building Energy Efficiency Standards. As we all know, the Energy Commission took a huge leap forward with the adoption of the 2019 standards, which mandates rooftop solar PV for all newly constructed low-rise residential buildings in California. This requirement, along with the rest of the 2019 standards, go into effect January 1st, 2020. This adoption would not have been possible without also including language to allow the Commission to make a determination that the solar PV requirement not apply to particular buildings. This solar PV determination process is detailed in Part 1, Section 10-109K. Section 10-109K states that the Energy Commission, upon written application or its own motion, may determine that the solar PV requirements not apply based on a finding that the implementation of public agency rules regarding the utility system costs and revenue requirements, the compensation for customer-owned generation, or the interconnection fees causes the Energy Commission's cost-effectiveness conclusions for the PV mandate to not hold. This ensures that the solar PV requirements adopted into the standards apply where they are cost-effective, consistent with the Public Resources Code. The Trinity Public Utility District serves most of Trinity County, covering around 2,100 square miles of mountain terrain, servicing approximately 7,200 customers. It distributes and sells 100% hydropower and is able to provide its customers with energy rates ranging from 5.5 cents to 7.8 cents per kilowatt hour. Trinity Public Utility District acknowledges the Commission's ambitious goals. However, it proposes that its low-cost energy rates simply make rooftop solar PV not cost-effective in its service area. Trinity Public Utility District conducted a public hearing and approved the decision to seek a determination from the Commission, submitting an application under 10-109K. Staff has reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirements for determination by the Commission and made the application available to the public for a 60-day public comment period. 2 comments were received and were taken into consideration during this process. Staff performed life cycle cost effectiveness analysis applying the Trinity energy rates and concluded that solar PV would indeed not be cost effective. Staff found that using the Trinity energy rates resulted in the compensation for customer-owned generation to fall short of being cost effective, therefore meeting the criteria of Section 10-109K. For this reason, staff recommends the Commission to approve the resolution determining that the solar PV requirements for newly constructed low-rise residential buildings shall not apply to the Trinity Public Utility District service area. We are here to answer any questions, as well as Paul Hauser from Trinity is in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments on this item? Or does Trinity itself want to make a comment? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Staff presented the issue well. The 7,200 customers we serve represent a population of about 13,000, and I know it doesn't have direct bearing on the application, but I think we are, unfortunately, one of the poorest county in the state, and like most poor areas of the state, affordable housing is in short supply there. This exemption would help in that regard in terms of being able to provide more affordable housing at lower cost, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, Commissioner McAllister.
Yeah, so thanks for the presentation. Really appreciate it, and I know that I've paid attention to this issue. I guess I want to just make sure that so this is the first one we're doing, and I want to make sure the process has been robust and something that has been fully transparent. I know I totally appreciate Trinity's process, locally. I want to just make sure that the public in our process has had access to all the information they would need, stakeholders and industry, and just to make sure that the numbers underpinning our analysis have been fully vetted. So maybe staff could speak to that issue. Sort of what have we posted, and how rigorous has our process been?
Good morning, Commissioner. This is Mazi Shirak from the Billing Standards Office. We did conduct a robust life cycle costing and cost effectiveness analysis for Trinity's proposal. We used our traditional life cycle costing analysis analogous to E3s, and we also did a more intuitive, what if the cost of the PV ended up in the mortgage, and compared that against the savings. And in this case, it was very clear that this was not cost effective. We do have the underlying analysis and the summary. We will docket that today. The analysis will be there. But in this case, it turns out that, for instance, on the cash flow analysis, if someone put this in their mortgage, there will be a negative $25 cash flow from day one. If you use the break-even analysis for that community, based on the meteorological condition of climate zone 1, it tends to be one of the least favorable climate zones for solar because of the fog, the coastal fog, and so forth. So the cost effectiveness per kilowatt hours was about 10 cents per kilowatt hour. And the Trinity's NEM rates are in the region of 5.5 to almost 8 cents. So either way we looked at it, it was far from being cost effective. And we'll post this, we'll docket all of them.
Okay, I guess, so I have no doubt, I mean, personally, that that's the case, that's for Trinity, that's actually, it's a clear analysis. I guess really I'm thinking more long-term, sort of, what happens when we get an application that is right at the cusp, and what's our process that we're going to put in, to make sure that really can get sort of debated and hashed out fully out there in the open, in places, where they aren't fortunate enough to have really low rates like Trinity. And then also thinking about, who might have the ability to file for a reconsideration if things change. Who does the assessment of local PV conditions to establish the cost, the all-in life cycle cost of PVs, for example, in that particular place. So I think we need to be a little more intentional about the process here, recognizing that Trinity has done great work locally, is very accountable locally, has the community's best interest in mind. And I certainly don't want to defer this for a long time, but I do want to make sure that we've established a process that's replicable in cases that aren't so clear-cut. So I think I'm gonna take the step and ask that we defer this till next month, and that we post all that stuff, post all the information, sort of ask stakeholders again to have a look at it and talk about really more process. I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with the outcome here of making the determination in Trinity's case, but I just want to make sure that we're setting a precedent that's robust going forward, because this is a big deal, big state. Lots of different entities could be coming forward with proposals for exemptions, and we need to think a little bit about standing. Who sort of would we expect to have? Who would we expect? Building departments? Is it the utility themselves? Is it the community? Who might we expect to form part of that process? Do we want to formalize that? Do we want to kind of play it by ear? I'm going to propose that we defer this item to next month, and then have a little bit of a process in place to establish a little bit more robust conversation.
Go ahead, Commissioner Monahan.
I think that does make a lot of sense, to be as transparent as we possibly can be about why we're picking a specific discount rate, why we're looking at a 30-year versus a 20-year time frame, and to give an opportunity for the public to be able to comment on that. So I do like this idea of publishing why we're making these, why we're choosing these different variables in this analysis, and to give some kind of public feedback opportunity.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, let's hold item 9 till the next meeting and move on to item 10. Unless you had other.
No. Just I want to thank the team and thank Trinity for all the work, and I know it came for determination today, but thanks for all the effort that went into this. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on to item 10, City of Port Hueneme.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Gavin Situ. I'm with the Local Assistance and Financing Office of Efficiency Division. Today, I'm here to request approval of approximately $840,000 through the Energy Conservation Assistance Act loan at 1%, also known as ECA, to the City of Port Hueneme. The City of Port Hueneme will use this loan to implement the following energy efficiency measures and sustainable power generation measures. Interior lighting improvement measure at the City Hall and Police Department, Public Works Department, and Water Treatment Plant. Exterior lighting improvement measures at City Hall and Police Department, Public Works Department, Water Treatment Plant, and various city parts. Street lighting improvements throughout the city. And lastly, 3 solar photovoltaic systems at the City Hall, Police Department, Public Works Department, and Community Center. Upon completion, the project will reduce about 376,000 kilowatt hours of grid electricity consumption annually, and is estimated to save about $55,000 in utility costs annually. Based on the loan amount and utility cost saving, the simple payback is approximately 15.4 years. This loan meets all statutory and regulatory requirements of ECA loan program and is categorically exempt from the CEQA guidelines. We recommend your approval of the loan and are happy to answer any question you may have. Thank you.
Thanks. The term of the loan is 1%. But it's a 20-year loan.
Yes, it's a 20-year loan.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I mean, ECA has been one of our most successful, most impressive programs to me, and this is yet another example. Commissioner McAllister, you have anything else you'd like to add on this?
No, just obviously a big fan of the program. I don't know if Commissioner Scott, who's been working on ports, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I was just checking. I was like, is this the port or is it a city of the
It's
port?
the city of the port.
Turns
Yeah,
out it's the city of the
yeah,
port.
exactly.
Yeah,
yeah, good. So I'll move item 10.
Is there a second? Second by Vice Chair Scott. All in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 11, Food Production Investment Program.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Cyrus Gandhi. I'm with the Energy Research and Development Division. Today's staff is seeking approval for two projects that were resulted from the last Food Production Investment Program's competitive grant solicitation, GFO 18903. 5 projects from the same solicitation were presented at the June 2019 business meeting. The purpose of the Food Production Investment Program is to fund emerging and drop-in energy technologies at food processing plants in California, which reduces energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. This program is funded through California Climate Investments, a statewide initiative that puts cap on trade dollars to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, strengthen the economy, and improve public health and the environment, particularly in low-income and disadvantaged communities. The first project is with Blue Diamond Growers in their almond processing facility in Sacramento. This project would replace aging and inefficient boilers at the food processing site with highly efficient, low-NOx boilers and a heat recovery system. This project is expected to significantly reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by reducing the natural gas use on site. In addition, staff has determined that this action is exempt from CEQA. The second project is with Sapporo Cheese USA Incorporated, a cheese production facility in Tulare, to install a solar thermal energy system. This system will be installed on a 3-acre land, making it the largest industrial-scale concentrated solar power system of its kind. Once operational, the solar heat from the system will offset the natural gas-produced heat, therefore reducing on-site greenhouse gas emissions. The technology, Hilux, was originally developed by the Energy Commission funding from Peer Electric, EPIC, and also cost share from the Department of Energy. Both of these projects are expected to provide benefits to priority populations by reducing on-site criteria, pollutants, and creating jobs. The solar thermal energy project was evaluated by the lead agency, the City of Tulare Planning Commission, which conducted an initial study resulting in mitigated negative declaration. Staff has determined that this project causes no significant or substantially more severe environmental impacts beyond those already considered and mitigated by the lead agency. Today, staff is seeking adoption of the CEQA findings, as well as approval of the two projects, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. In addition, John King from Hyperlight is here to say a few words about the solar thermal project.
You want to invite someone to? Yeah, come on up, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Hyperlight Energy, this is 411B. Hyperlight Energy has been at this for 12 years. What we've seen evolve in clean tech over that time is a 3-stage development path. Stage 1, government-funded R&D. Stage 2, subsidized commercialization. and the goal being stage 3 unsubsidized commercial competitiveness with incumbents. This has worked in solar photovoltaic with the CSI program. And this food production investment program award would represent a milestone for us as we transition from that first stage of R&D into subsidized commercialization. With that said, I want to express my company's, my stakeholders' deep gratitude to the CEC for your longstanding support and hopefully continuing support. Getting this technology ready for the market would not have been possible without you. Not at all. Transitioning into that stage 3 unsubsidized commercialization, that won't be possible without you either. I thank you, my company thanks you, the ratepayers of California thank you. I think the planet thanks you for all the work you're doing here, represented by all the projects. I need to also thank Southern California Gas Company and the U.S. Department of Energy, who have also provided critical support along the way. Following CEC's leadership, you acted first and they followed behind you. And last but not least, of course, Saputo Cheese USA deserves thanks and recognition here. They make cheese. You know, that's their business. And so for them to take a stand like this and be the first commercial customer is a very big deal. I can't tell you, I mean, I saw the presentation for that innovation network early. You know, getting from where you're doing Match.com for clean tech entrepreneurs to where you have a number 3, you know, food producer in North America is really hard and a big deal. And you have helped us get there. So with all that said, thank you, and I can answer any questions if you have any.
Great, thanks. Vice Chair Scott?
Yeah, well, this is very exciting. As you guys remember, we did a few of these, and Cyrus mentioned as a presentation a couple months ago. This is another set. I just wanted to say thank you to our team for doing such a great job in this space. I think most of the time, as Mr. King has pointed out as well, food processors don't think about Energy Commission and getting grants at the Energy Commission, and then also so, you know, the kind of outreach that we had to do to make sure folks knew that this program is available and how to apply and all of that. And also to set the timing in a way that it doesn't impact the key food processing timelines, right? So there's times of the year where they're really quite busy and it wouldn't be a great time to have to put in an application or to be expected to put in a brand new technology. So the flexibility that I think the team has showed in putting this together is really exciting. And I did want to highlight also, Mr. King, you took all my talking points.
Sorry.
I'm glad to have you here, though. Thank you for being here. This is pretty neat. I mean, the technology is something that Pure Electricity helped to fund. And as you've noted, now it's kind of on its way to the next step being demonstrated. It's the largest solar thermal in a production facility. So I think that's very exciting as well. And I'm looking forward to going to visit it, and also the Blue Diamond as well once they're up and running. So if there are no other comments, I will happily.
Excuse me, hold on, actually.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Scott. I just wanted to make sure that we got a call for public comments because of the transition.
Yeah, we did have one,
right in,
but
sorry.
that was John Ken. I don't have any other cards for item 11. Are there anyone else in the room or on the phone? Thank you. With that, go ahead.
Thanks for the double check. I will happily move approval of item 11.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McAllister. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And let me just say, I've been working with the Secretary of Agriculture, Karen Ross, who's really excited about this program. I think altogether, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's over $100 million we have in the food production. It's something on that order. It's substantial. And so it's a big new part of our portfolio, and really great to see this. So let's move on to item 12, 5 Points Pipeline, LLC.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Hugh Nguyen with the Fields and Transportation Division. Today, staff is seeking approval of one project, 5 Points Pipeline, LLC. The project, developed by Moss Energy Works Incorporated, is proposed for funding under the Community Scale and Commercial Scale Biofuels Production Solicitation released by the Clean Transportation Program. This solicitation provided over $19 million in funding for projects that increase the in-state production of low-carbon biofuels at new or existing production facilities. The agreement with 5 Points Pipeline is for about $3.5 million to design, build, and commission a new biogas to renewable natural gas conditioning facility in Fresno County, California. The project will collect biogas captured from a cluster of 5 local dairy digesters and transport the gas via a private low-pressure pipeline to an upgrading facility. The new facility will condition the biogas into 2.5 million diesel gallon equivalents of renewable natural gas, with a carbon intensity of negative 174 grams of CO2 equivalent per megajoule. The finished fuel will be purchased and dispensed at a nearby Clean Energy Fuels CNG fueling station. The project supports the state's short-lived climate pollution strategy and methane reduction goals under SB 1383. Dairy-related methane is responsible for more than half of the in-state methane emissions. This project is estimated to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 94,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per year. 5 Points Renewable Natural Gas Conditioning Facility was evaluated by the lead agency, the Fresno County Department of Public Works and Planning, which adopted an initial study, mitigated negative declaration, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program on September 9th, 2019, by resolution number 12791. The commission staff determined that this project causes no new significant or substantially more severe environmental impacts beyond those already considered and mitigated by the lead agency. For this agreement, staff is seeking your adoption of the CEQA findings and approval of the grant award in item number 12. Thank you for your consideration. I have Daryl Moss and Doug Bryant for Moss Energy Works is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any public comments on this item? Hearing none, Commissioner Monahan.
Well, thanks, Hugh, and thanks to the FTD team and to Vice Chair Scott for tackling this major source of methane emissions. As Hugh said, it's dairy account for half of all the methane emissions in the state, which is a large contribution, and 5% of the state's total greenhouse gas emissions. So it's just a major sector to tackle. California, I think, has more dairy cows than any state in the country, so with a lot of waste from those those operations. So I think this is a really smart way to address this emission source and to be able to create these kind of closed loop cycles where we capture the methane and we use it locally. It's a win-win for the community and for our goals around climate.
Great. Would you like to make a motion?
I move to approve item 12.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Scott. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item
Thank you.
13, Enel X North America.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Larry Riera. I'm with the Fuels and Transportation Division, here to present item number 13. This agreement is funded through the Clean Transportation Program. In December of 2018, the Energy Commission released a nearly $10 million solicitation for the manufacture of zero-emission vehicles and zero-emission vehicle infrastructure. The intent of the solicitation was to develop and expand ZEV supply chains in California. Enel X North America Incorporated is proposed for $1.9 million in funding. Enel X North America will manufacture next-generation electric vehicle supply equipment and software. The agreement with Enel X North America proposes minor alterations to their existing manufacturing facility and to acquire and install manufacturing equipment and tools. This equipment will be used to manufacture electric vehicle supply equipment and software in the city of San Carlos. The project will leverage approximately $2 million in private investment and will create jobs in disadvantaged communities while increasing the scale of electric vehicle charger production. Staff is also recommending approval of staff's determination that this project is exempt from CEQA. Staff would note that a representative from Enel X North America is present to provide remarks and answer any questions. Thank you for consideration of this item.
Thank you. Any public comment? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Riera. Good morning, Chair Hochschild, Vice Chair Scott, and fellow commissioners. My name is Mark Mambuquette, and I represent the e-mobility arm of NLX, a subsidiary of the Enel Group, which is focused on emerging clean energy technologies. So I'm here to express our deep gratitude and appreciation for the Energy Commission's Clean Transportation Program and its support of in-state manufacturing for ZEV charging infrastructure. For context, NLX's e-mobility activities in North America build on the foundation laid by eMotorworks, a San Carlos-based startup founded in 2010 that was acquired by the Enel Group in 2017. eMotorworks grew into a market leader in the residential smart EV charging segment with its Flag 2 Level 2 EV charger known as the Juice Box. And we also became a leader in the provision of vehicle grid integration services. However, as part of eMotorworks' full integration into NLX this past summer, we have been developing a comprehensive lineup of EV charging solutions that we aim to announce before the year's end to more concertedly target the wide variety of non-residential and commercial charging segments and use cases, benefiting in part from the state's strong support of EV charging projects through the Cal EVIP program. These new products will continue to run on JuiceNet, our cloud-based energy services software platform that is used for asset management and for the flexible control of EV charging. A portion of these new product sales will eventually come equipped for advanced smart charging communications using ISO 15118. So this investment from the state of California will be used to outfit a new manufacturing facility within an existing building right down the street from our current location in San Carlos. We will be producing this next generation of EV chargers at this facility, and the grant is also supporting the creation of good-paying local manufacturing jobs. So we are grateful to the Energy Commission staff's engagement over the past 6 months to help us get our agreement materials in order, and also to accommodate the merger of eMotorworks into NLX that occurred after the NOPA was announced in April. So once again, thank you very much for your support. We look forward to our partnership with the Energy Commission, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Monahan?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this is a really exciting project, and it's a win-win-win, right? We're helping meet our aggressive goals on climate and EV commercialization. We are helping local industries thrive and creating jobs. And I just want to say there's now data to indicate that the EV sector really is flourishing in California. Forbes says that we are the EVs are the 8th largest export out of the state. We're exporting more EVs in dollar terms than we are oil, which is an interesting place to be. And it's also the 6th largest creator of jobs in the manufacturing sector. So I think this project is a good demonstration of California's commitment, not just to pass these policies, but also to make sure that local industries thrive from them. So I'm very strongly supportive of this, and I move to approve item 13.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner McAllister. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 14, minutes. Is there?
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Scott. All in favor say aye.
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 That passes unanimously. Let's move on to lead commissioner reports. We heard already from Commissioner Douglas. Why don't we go to you, Commissioner Monahan?
I was talking very loudly, though. So I just wanted to elaborate. Last month, I think I mentioned that we're already moving towards how do we do our next investment plan for the Clean Transportation Program. We're kind of like behind the curve already because it took us a while to get to the finish line on this last investment plan. And we're taking very seriously these comments by the Disadvantaged Communities Advisory Group and others that we need to think about refreshing in a pretty deep way the advisory committee. And I hope next month we'll be coming with a specific plan for how to do that thoughtfully and in a way that really demonstrates our commitment to ensuring that diverse communities benefit from our investments. We're also considering, again, we need to engage in a refreshed advisory committee on this, but considering a multi-year funding plan, which I think has never been done for this current, for the Clean Transportation Program, but we're considering that as a way to give a little bit more certainty to investors and to potential grantee recipients about, well, even if you don't this year, the next year, you will be able to. And we'll tweak the plan annually, definitely, but just to provide a little more certainty, that's what we're considering. We're really excited to have Noemi Gallardo, our new public advisor, to help us with those aspects. And we, just think that the partnership that we're going to have with Noemi to make sure that we're really doing all we can to engage the public is going to be really important to our success. I've done a bunch of talks this month, a lot of talking. I'm so tired of myself. But what has been kind of fun is being on a number of panels with all women talking about transportation. And as somebody who's been in this field a long, long time, I'm very old, that hasn't been the case most of my career. And we've all been commenting on it. Oh, it's not a manel, it's a female, but that doesn't really have as good of a ring to it. But on a panel with Uber is actually making some interesting commitments around electric transportation. They have a partnership with EVgo. They're promised to release carbon emissions per capita. It's data that eventually we can think about how to incorporate that kind of analysis into our IPER to account for what the so-called three revolutions: electrification, autonomy, and mobility as a service. And I was at UC Davis on their three revolutions talking about just that with a bunch of nerds, my people, and an electric bus conference where there was a lot of debate. Is it going to be battery? Is it going to be fuel cell? I mean, there was a lot of head-to-head. It was almost too much competition between these two industries that we want to flourish. I'm going to be going to the University of Michigan this week to talk about electric vehicles, and it's actually kind of a debate. I don't know if debate is too strong, but definitely it'll be a discussion. Global automakers will be there, and there's going to be a lot of discussion about whether or not the zero-emission vehicle mandate is good policy. And I'm very supportive of the zero-emission vehicle mandate, so I'll definitely be on the side of state actions to that effect, and the need to make sure that that policies aren't enough. We have to have a robust charging infrastructure in particular, and we need other states to step up in the way that California is looking to do that. We're hiring up in the FTD to make sure that we can do a good job on our analysis of what the charging infrastructure needs are, and I want to thank the chair for doing some outreach to make sure we're getting strong candidates, accepting positions here that will help us make sure we have like the intellectual foundations internally to do a really bang-up job on that report. That's
Great.
it.
Yeah, let me thank you for all your work, but just on the recruitment stuff. So just for my colleague, I've told every deputy that when there's a key position that's open, they have a star candidate, and they need help recruiting that person, I will personally be willing to call. We had a case last week of a star, who'd been with us as a summer fellow, Stanford master's student, and he'd gotten an offer from PG&E as well, and called him, had a great talk, he took the job. And I think this is the kind of thing, these positions are coming up, we can do a lot of good, but we only do as much good as the people in the jobs. And so going out and getting folks, we cannot compete on salary, right, with a lot of what they can get in the private sector, but we can compete on other levels. We're a great place to work, and we're doing really exciting stuff. And this is, who wouldn't want to work with all of us? So, so I just I want to thank you and for all your work, and Kevin Barker especially for teeing that one up. Commissioner McAllister.
Oh, great. Yeah, just a few things. Wanted to also say welcome to Noemi and to Darcy. It's really going to be great working with you both. And just a few comments. I wanted to thank my colleagues for supporting the NASIO annual meeting and being there. I know Commissioner Scott couldn't go, but really wanted to, but everybody else was able to make it, and it was just super well received. I mean, we really put forward our best face for all the state energy officials that gathered in Manhattan Beach a few weeks ago. And all the comments, I mean, I think people were just, they sort of rationally know what's going on in California, but just to see the folks leading some of these efforts in person and be able to ask and hear and participate, I think really left an impression that's going to move the needle in states across the country. So that was really great. I also wanted to thank my assistant Laura for pitching in and being down there the whole time and keeping the wheels turning together with the NASIO staff. And let's see, just a couple highlights. So Pedro Pizarro gave the kickoff from Edison, gave the kickoff talk. That was really great. He's such a great example of sort of just a really true leader who's doing things for all the right reasons. And then Mary Nichols gave the first day lunch keynote and sort of gave everybody the heads up that that was the week for the revocation of the emissions waiver. And sure enough, a couple days later, it happened. But I think giving people a firsthand taste of, look at Mary and just sort of how much gravitas she brings to, like, wow, a real regulator, just, somebody who's not afraid to actually pull that lever and be bold. And I think it left a real lasting impression. Also just the fact that all the things that we can do as a state to mitigate the impact of that, to fight back, to control the big flows of subsidies and the carpool lane access and all that stuff that we can do to really get manufacturers in line, with our market power. And I think people appreciated that, or saw that in action, which left an impression. And then also there was a really interesting talk by the CEO of a company called Indigo that is doing carbon sequestration in agriculture fields across the Midwest for the most part for like $15 a ton, $20 a ton, right around the clearing price. And and using remote sensing and using a lot of sophisticated tools to make sure that it's additional and accountable and all that stuff. Really, if that turns out, if they can scale that and they can really do it and they can create a product, that could be a huge, I won't say game changer, but maybe, it could be really big to get that kind of sequestration at scale. And if we can actually use that as part of a market, that could be huge. So let's see, and then 2 weeks ago, so that was almost a month ago, just after the last business meeting. 2 weeks ago, spent the week in Mexico City with a delegation with the Lieutenant Governor. And I have to say, she is, I had not spent a lot of time with her, but Lieutenant Governor Kounalakis is super impressive, just a true professional, super engaging and very personable at the personal level, but also just a consummate professional, just really great at bringing people together, highlighting all the good positives that we have across Mexico, with Mexico City, with different states in Mexico, and just was a great leader of that delegation. So a lot of private sector presence in energy and transportation and water, and then representation from a bunch of state agencies. With a highlight for me was signing an MOU with the City of Mexico government. So just the sub-jurisdictional conversation is just getting to be so central to climate, and there's so much synergy. I'd say primarily on energy and buildings for sure, but also in transportation and air quality and environmental justice, so many different fronts. And being the mayor of Mexico City, as Claudia Sheinbaum is a huge job. I can't really imagine a bigger job, almost, maybe being president of Mexico. But it's I think the 5th largest city in the world. Mayor Jefe de Gobierno is what they call her. She's not exactly a mayor because it's sort of not quite it's more than a city but not quite a state. So it's a really unique jurisdiction within Mexico. But she did her PhD research at Berkeley Lab, worked with Lee Shipper back in the day, is an energy expert in her own right on residential energy consumption, as a professor.
And me.
Exactly. and looked at residential energy consumption in Mexico for her PhD, and is a professor at UNAM there. So really great counterpart to have. I mean, this energy world manifests itself in interesting ways. So anyway, I'm excited about that. I wanted to thank my advisor Brian Early for putting that trip together to really together with Bud Colligan and Panarea Avdis, Bud from GovOps and Panarea from Lieutenant Governor's office. It was really just they knocked it out of the park, and it was a good representation of California. And it was actually the first international delegation of the Newsom administration, and so that was a very conscious choice to go to Mexico City. Let's see. Last Friday, I talked at the Getting to Zero conference, which zero. It used to be about zero net energy. Now it's about zero carbon, and that's just been for the last 15 years, they've been doing this conference between the Rocky Mountain Institute, primarily organized by the New Buildings Institute, and it was in Oakland, and just a really great, 400 of the biggest, buildings nerds you can imagine, but just so much appreciation of the grid impacts of buildings, and this idea that everything needs to work together, and that we've got a billion different actors now connected to the grid that all have to work together. I think it's that idea is taking hold, and there's a lot of creativity flowing into it in the building sector for sure. Let's see, just a couple of small things. I want to thank Siva Gunda for representing us at the NARUC-NASIO meeting on comprehensive electricity system planning. And that's the PUC and the Energy Commission are participating in this effort. It's 16 states. It's convened by NASIO and its counterpart, NARUC, the Regulatory Utility Commissioners. And it's a really interesting effort to get states sort of socialize this idea that we need to do comprehensive system planning that includes a distribution grid and all of these distributed resources. And that's something that's new for a lot of states. And I think we're in a position to lead that conversation. And so Siva represented us at that last meeting, and I heard it went really well. And then tomorrow I'm actually headed to a dairy digester for a tour in Bakersfield. Hopefully I'll also be able to, see Dwight Yoakam or something down there. But it's dairy digesters are kind of a focus of attention now. So how can we best take advantage of them? So I'm going to see one in person and see what innovations are happening. So that's it for me. So thanks very much.
Great, and thanks again for your terrific job on the NASIO conference. That was fantastic, and great use of your time and talents. Commissioner Scott. Yeah.
All right, so it's been a busy month for me as well. Just last week I was in San Diego at the Western Interstate Energy Board meeting and the Western Interconnection Regional Advisory Body, WIRAB, of which I am the chair. And that was a 3-day meeting. It was excellent. We meet twice a year to really talk about key reliability work across the West. So it's 11 Western states and 3 Canadian provinces and Mexico as well that participate in that. We had a panel that was on 100% clean energy standards, which was fantastic. So Siva came and presented on that. So he's been busy this month as well. Did a fantastic job. It also included Nevada and Oregon and a person from Idaho Power. So not the state of Idaho, but from Idaho Power. So it was really interesting to hear where the different states are, what we're working on, why we're working on it, who has what defined, and those kinds of things. So that was a very interesting panel. We had another really good panel, I think, on wildfire and what to think about. So Michael Wara, one of the wildfire commissioners, came and was presenting on that panel, but clearly wildfire and responses and what do we need to do is a topic that's of consideration for all of our Western states. Brian, I'm blanking on Brian's last name, from San Diego Gas and Electric, because they've got one of the most sophisticated wildfire detection systems within the utility. So that was also, I think, a very interesting, incredibly timely panel. Some discussion, Commissioner Leanne Randolph was there as well, and she talked about resource adequacy and capacity and some of the things that we see in California coming up in the next couple of summers. So that was interesting to hear about. It was a little bit of a California-centric meeting, but sometimes we're the bellwether of things that we will start to see in the West later
For example, Arizona has recently started to experience their duck curve is actually a camel. It has 2 humps, right? But they have they're starting to experience kind of what that looks like now, and so we tend to be a bellwether of things that other Western states will experience sooner or later. We also had a very technical presentation on inverter-based resources, and I thought it was interesting. Really what they were saying is now that we have more inverter-based resources coming online, we need to make sure that our frequency control systems and other things like that are set up to respond to those. And they're on different time frames. And if they're not, what happens is it actually makes it worse. And then, so I'm envisioning the sine wave that she was drawing that kept getting more wiggly, and that's not a good thing in that situation. So they were kind of pointing out things that regulators ought to be mindful of as we start having more inverter-based resources. So it was a very interesting meeting down in San Diego. It's great because all the San Diegans were talking about how it's starting to feel like fall, and all the Canadians were like, really? It's 75 degrees here. So it was good. We are all IPER all the time. There have been several IPER workshops. They have all been, I think, very interesting. We did some emerging trends in maybe interesting for folks like us, emerging trends in forecasting. You guys had a fantastic offshore wind workshop. We talked about deep decarbonization in California. So quite a bit going on in the IPER space. And then I've had a chance to visit many of our EPIC and PURE and FPIP projects, and so I just wanted to highlight a couple of those for you. We went out to, this was not a project, but we went to the Cyclotron Road event called Activate. It is where they bring together investors, philanthropists, and corporate leaders to really get visionary pitches from folks who have great ideas in the tech space. Not all of the tech was energy-focused tech, but the technology that was energy-focused mostly was funded by Energy Commission programs. So through CalSeed, through RAMP, through Bridge, some of our other programs, those were the entrepreneurs that were there sort of making the pitches. It was very exciting, lots of energy, lots of great ideas, things that I never would have thought of, but folks have these really creative ideas, and they each had about 3 minutes to kind of make this pitch and then excite you to come over to their booth to learn more. And so it was very, very energetic. So different than some of the symposium that we often go to, where we get lots of good information, but maybe not that same high energy level. So that was fantastic, and I was really proud to be there. I had a chance to speak a little bit about our program on a panel during that session. We went to visit Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, which was great. We saw some things like high-performance windows, cool surfaces, solutions to improve indoor air quality, turning woody waste into low-carbon fuels and products. And we heard from a bunch of the CalSeed entrepreneurs that are sparked by investments we've made in Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. One of the interesting things that they showed us there is, even though Lawrence Berkeley Lab is, obviously in Berkeley, and many of the Energy Commission's research funds go there, they spread out all across the state, and the projects are being carried out all across the state. So if you kind of look at that first line number, it's like, oh gosh, there's a lot of money going to the Bay Area, to Berkeley. But if you look at the second line number, you can actually see that there's projects all around the state. So I appreciated that they highlighted that for us while we were there. We also saw the world's most advanced building efficiency test bed, and it's actually a building, and it has, I don't know, fake people is not quite the right word. I'm sure the scientists will be like, oh, that's not what we showed her. But it's like it was a fake person, and he has sensors, or she, all over, and so they can tell if the window coatings are working correctly, what the air temperature is like within a building, what the glare is on the screen, depending on different lights that come in, by having this. It wasn't a robot. It was just like a person, a mannequin, kind of sitting there with these sensors. The building can also rotate, which is really cool. So that if you have something, want to see how it works on the western side of a building versus the northern side of a building, you can actually rotate that building. So that was really neat to see. We had a chance to go visit also here in Davis and the Mondavi Center and our Western Energy, our Western Cooling Center. So there's all kinds of interesting work on HVAC, on insulation and spray insulation, and how to get insulation into cracks in existing buildings and things that have been invented over there, due in part most to Energy Commission funding. So that's exciting to see. And then we saw a community scale, low cost, high efficient PV and energy management system.
So I wrote that down to make sure I got it right. But it was pretty neat. So Mondavi has over there, they do the testing of a whole bunch of different kinds of wine. And that whole center is run off of this. They're trying to get it off, maybe off the grid's not the right word, but to be zero energy, zero carbon. And so that was really neat to see. The folks are working with a Second Life Nissan batteries in that energy management system, which was great. And actually, it's so interesting and innovative that they have spun off their own little company and won a CalSeed grant to get that technology on its way down the innovation pipeline. So that was really cool to see. So it's really neat to go out and get to kick the tires on some of these projects and see what they're doing, talk to the people who are working on them. And I feel like I'm always so excited to be at the commission, but we're doing really interesting work, and it's great to see it all around the state. And I sometimes hear, the program's not innovative enough, and I feel like that means people really just aren't paying attention, because when you go and you look and see what folks are working on, both on the technology innovator side, but also on the science side. So you all remember that we did the updated earthquake. We're learning about what we need to learn about wildfire management and the types of things we need to study. We are way on the cutting edge. And so it's exciting to get to go and see some of it. So many thanks to the EPIC staff for putting that together for me and their great work every day. So that's my update.
Great, and I was able to hear your talk at the Cyclotron Road event. You did fantastic, as usual. A couple updates. One, I want to just begin actually our neighbor, this building that's going up. Secretary Crowfoot led a tour for the agency chairs to see the building. So it's a $520 million green building that will be done a little over a year from now. I have major building envy, I will say, but it's done just with incredible thoughtfulness on green design. Really, the state is pushing very hard on that. DGS is doing a great job of building out the next fleet of buildings that are super high efficiency, and great to see this. They've actually put we got to sign the last iron member that goes on the top, and that is now, so the building is now, all the structures in, so they're now just building up. One event that Commissioner Monahan and I did maybe 10 days ago, hosted a dinner with Orville Schell from the Age Society and a few other folks for Chairman Wang, who's the chairman of BYD, largest electric vehicle maker in the world, 220,000 employees. And he was in town from China. And just to give you a sense, they're obviously based in Shenzhen, where all of the buses in the whole city were electric and all of the taxis are electric, and they're now doing heavy duty. So this year they've done 3,000 heavy duty electric trucks. We've been talking about this as a hypothetical. They're actually doing it now. And just to hear the scale that they're getting to was really exciting. And my thanks again to Fan Dai for organizing that trip to China I did in June, and I think Commissioner Monahan's hopefully going to be doing a trip this next year, but hopefully all of us can continue that engagement in China. So let's see. I guess the other big news, I'm still married. The reason I note that is that we had a dinner this week with Mark Ruffalo, who my wife has had a crush on for like 20 years, and he's been working very hard on 100% clean energy advocacy. And so I was happily surprised to still have her at the end of the night. But incredible advocacy. Both he led the fracking ban in New York State and then has been involved in propagating 100% clean energy mandates around the country. I did sign a MOU with Denmark this week around offshore wind. And I think I'll share a little bit about the novel. I think I'll stop there. Let's move on to Executive Director's Report. I would ask, actually, Drew, if you could cover the blackouts and what Justin was doing at OES as well in your report.
Certainly. Why don't I start there? So most of you know Justin Cochran. He's on the third floor, and he's both our nuclear advisor to Chair Hochschild, as well as our emergency coordinator. And our principal responsibility is with refineries. And so during this situation, he was stationed over at the Office of Emergency Services for several days doing 12-hour shifts, we spelled them after a few days with another staff person who traded off a little bit, and by this weekend, they said they could just be on call, and so that was fine. But he told, and I won't go into them in detail, you may want to speak with him yourself, but it was really, really good that we had a presence there, because our understanding of the refineries and our relationship with the players there, not just Justin, but some of our other staff, and knowing that the refineries, you can keep them going, but if you don't have the pipelines working as well, they also, in many cases, don't have backup power. So he was instrumental in working closely with the other officials to make sure that we got no big breaks that would have had really rippling effects on gasoline and diesel supply. So did a wonderful job. And I just want to, I have no other report, except I want to, in our ongoing series of Unsung Heroes, bring up Melanie Vale, who I think most of you know, so she's not as unsung as some of the folks we bring up, but she's
pretty sung, I think.
She's pretty sung, she is. But we got her here at the Energy Commission about 10 years ago after a banking career in the northern part of the state, and she's been just terrific. She's run our budget office until about a week or two ago, when she was promoted to run not just the budget office, but the contracts, grants, and loans office and the accounting office. And she's been instrumental in, and has really been the architect of our ERPA work to try to shift funds around and cut back where we can, and save and pinch funds when we can. And I just wanted to honor her for all that great work she's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. I really have appreciated your work. I'm very focused on this ERPA fix. It's a real issue for us, and just really appreciate your diligence and strategy on that. Let's go next to Public Advisors Report. Noemi.
Noemi Gallardo, Public Advisor. Thank you again for the warm welcome, Commissioners. Short report, just wanted to highlight that I am working with Chair Hochschild to develop some ideas, or I'll explore and develop some ideas for a couple of events. And also my team has already been diving in to support Commissioner Monahan and her team on refreshing the Clean Transportation Advisory Committee. So very excited about that and look forward to working with all of you. So that's it on my report. I believe there is a public comment for at least one item that's not on the agenda today.
Thank you. Let's go to public comment. David Wright. Are you still here? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Good morning to the Commission. My name is David Wright. I'm a PhD environmental scientist. I have been watching our descent into this climate emergency for about 35 years, so I'm a little older than some of you. I feel that we urgently need to move forward on reaching zero carbon, and not just forward, but radically forward. I want to bring your attention to a proposal that SMUD has made to the Commission under Title 24. And actually, I believe it would be an exemption under Title 24, and they call this solar shares. I'm asking you to please send this proposal back to SMUD, reject it. So first of all, the proposal proposes coasting, not moving forward in the spirit of Title 24. SMUD asks to be credited for their past glories as if they were future advances, which they're not. They need to move forward. We all need to move forward. Second, the proposal avoids providing full access to solar resources to citizens living in lower income multifamily units, contrary to the spirit of the code. And third, it's my understanding that SMUD staff have submitted this proposal and that it has not gone before the SMUD board for public presentation, review, and comment. This is inappropriate for a proposal of this magnitude, and that should be of concern to the Commission. In summary, SMUD Solar Shares proposal is backsliding. It does not fulfill public sunshine needs, and I feel it is environmentally and socially unjust. And I strongly encourage the Commission to reject it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Any other public comments, or did SMUD want to respond to that? No? Okay. Any other comments? Okay, let's move on to Chief Counsel's report.
No report. Thank you.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.